It's Red Eye Radio. Talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios. For Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, Dan Mandis, this is Red Eye Radio.
866-90 Red Eye is the phone number, 866-907-3339. I want to, first of all, I have a poll. I'm going to call it the Red Eye Radio poll tonight as I'm filling in for Gary and Eric. And the question is basically, do you believe that the president trying to force regime change in Iran is America first? Yes or no? 66% of you believe that, yes, it is America first. 33% of you say, no, it is not America first. I've had all of 12 votes on my poll. So if you want to find it, you can at Dan Mandis Show on X. Now, this next segment, I want to talk about this from a couple of different levels. Because it's about Minnesota and the fraud that Nick Shirley has uncovered. But it's actually a lot more than that. Earlier in the show, we had a woman call up. And she was, I'm not going to say despondent, but she was concerned because, you know, there's a lot of stuff that is going on. And the left is able to absolutely amplify their messaging. I mean, they've got the networks, they've got CNN, they've got MS Now, they've got blowtorches of communication. New York Times, Wall Street Journal, you know, a lot of the mainstream media as well. New York Times, Washington Post, etc. And so she was sort of lamenting about the fact that, you know, Republicans, I mean, short of talk radio and obviously President Trump and J.D. Vance and so forth, but, you know, the Republican conservative values don't have the voice or the influence that the left has. And I don't know if I believe that or not. I'm just going to be honest with you. Because on our side, you know, we of course had El Rushbo, but, you know, beyond all that, we have and had Charlie Kirk. And by the way, Charlie Kirk's message still rings truer than ever today. But I think that we do have conservative voices that are being amplified on, for example, talk radio, but also on the internet, on social media. And so during that call, I actually said, you know, I take great, solace, if you will, in Nick Shirley because of what he was able to accomplish and continues to accomplish. So we do have some very influential voices on our side of the aisle. I mean, we really do. Whether it is social media, whether it is talk radio, and I believe that people like J.D. Vance, people like Marco Rubio, amazing communicators as well. And, of course, Donald Trump has his own style. But with Nick Shirley, specifically, he did something that, as I've said before, and others have said too, he did something that local media, New York Times, Washington Post, and the networks refused to do. Which is, number one, they refuse to report the truth about what is going on in Minnesota regarding the fraud, which is what led up to a lot of the violence that we're seeing in Minnesota now, because it was the fraud that led Donald Trump to send in ICE. The fraud that was uncovered by Nick Shirley. But I like the fact that not only did he shine a light on the fraud of the Democrats, but he's also doing it at his own great risk. Because he is now, of course, being threatened. I'm sure that shocks no one. But there's a couple of videos that I wanted to point out to you, and you can find me on X at Dan Mandis Show. I'm only going to play portions of these interviews, of these, you know, videos that Nick has put out. But there was one where he is, in the streets of Minneapolis, and he is verbally accosted by what is described as a Somali crook.
This has nothing to do with race. This is fraud. It's fraud.
This absolutely has to do with us being Muslim.
No, it does not.
All right, and us being from Africa.
All right, so this guy believes that the reason why Nick Shirley is, and this is a story as old as time, right? You're calling out their fraud, you're calling out their bad behavior, and so he says it's because they're Muslim or because they're from Africa. Remember why this was allowed for so long in Minneapolis. I'm not going to start yelling. I don't want to start yelling. I can feel my anger rising, though, because I've been called a racist my entire career. But one of the reasons why this was allowed to perpetuate in Minnesota is because if you spoke up, you were called a racist. Now, I'm at the point where I don't give two craps about being called a racist, but, you know, the people on the left, they really are concerned still to this day about being called a racist. So the word, again, was weaponized so that the Somali community could continue to rip off the American people.
This is a constitutional argument. If you don't want us here, change the freedom of religion. Say, listen, we don't want Muslims in this country anymore.
This guy is so full of crap. He is absolutely full of crap. And Nick Shirley's like, what are you talking about?
We're not saying that.
No.
We're not saying that.
When I go
Sir,
onto
we're
your
talking
comments,
about fraud. When
I go onto your comments,
my comments.
What I see is people that say we do not want Muslims here.
Nobody, I don't know what the heck this guy's talking about. I'd be willing to bet that most people don't even know that a lot of these Somalis are Muslims. But it doesn't matter. We have millions of Muslims in this country. This guy is trying to obfuscate the fact that the Somali community has been found to be perpetuating a lot of this fraud. And here's the thing. I'll be the first to admit, because it's true. Not all Somalians have been getting, you know, millions of dollars in fraudulent taxpayer funds. That is most certainly the true. But it is also true that clearly it is something that is going on within this community. And I also believe that people like this guy that is sitting here saying, you don't like Muslims, you don't like people from Africa. I don't know if he is part of the fraudulent community or not. I don't know if he's one of the ones that has been defrauding the American people. But instead of condemning it, he's decided to instead say, oh, no, this is about race. This is about religion. This is about us being from Africa. See, what I'm looking for, because, again, I just said, not every Somalian in Minneapolis or St. Paul or Minnesota is getting all of this fraudulent money. But let me ask you this, my friends. How many of them are speaking out against it? I'll wait. Not a lot of them. I haven't seen any, to be perfectly honest with you. I have not seen anyone within the Somali community in Minnesota speaking out against the rampant fraud of some in that community. Now, as conservatives, I know that not everybody here is conservative, obviously, but, you know, from my side of the aisle, I am an unabashed conservative, unapologetic conservative. Another conservative does something I don't like, I call it out. I say, no, you are wrong. Whether it's Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, a lawmaker, whatever. I'm not afraid to do that. But that seems to be something that is unique to the conservative side of the aisle. Have you noticed that? You know, the only person that I see that has been calling out the Somali fraud on the other side of the aisle is John Fetterman. The lone voice of reason on the Democrat side of the aisle. John Fetterman. That's it. And they're trying to primary him. So you have Nick Shirley, and he is being accused of, you know, in that video. And again, if you want to see the entire, it's like a 4-minute video. But if you want to see the entirety of that video, you can. You can find it on my X feed at Dan Mandis Show. Here's another one. And I played this on my morning show in Nashville, Tennessee, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So when you go to a daycare, my kids were in daycare. My stepson was in daycare. and maybe your kids or grandkids, whatever, are in daycare. But when you go and you roll up into the daycare, can I just ask you, generally speaking, who works at the daycare center? Generally speaking, it is women, right? I mean, obviously, you have some men that work at these places, but, by and large, it has been my experience that it is mostly women that work at daycare centers. So Nick Shirley rolls up to another one of these daycare centers, and he's trying to, figure out, okay, so where are the kids? And where's all of this money that you people are getting from this, from the government, and where are all the kids and all that? You know the story. And you've got not one, not two, not three, 5 Somali men come running out of this supposed daycare center and start threatening Nick Shirley.
How are you doing? Yes, sir.
Get out.
Okay, listen.
Get out. This is our business.
Each other, okay?
Yes,
What are you
sir.
looking for?
We don't care what you do on the parking lot.
Go this side. Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll call the
This
cops.
private.
And Nick is just like, guys, look, I've got this piece of paper here, and I want to know, is this particular daycare that is getting millions of dollars in taxpayer funds? That's all I want to know.
Can be here in the parking lot.
No. You don't need here.
Wait,
What are
can
you
we
looking
ask
for?
you about the daycare? It's all right.
looking
It's all
for?
right. Can we ask you about the daycare?
No.
You got all these Muslim men just, running out of this supposed daycare, and he just wants to know.
$2.25 million.
Get out, you guys. Get out.
$2.5 million.
$2.25 million, Nick Shirley is saying. Is that what you're getting? Where are the kids?
Get out, hey. Get out. What are you looking for?
We're asking. We just want to
Get out.
We just want to ask you about
Come out.
He's just wanting to ask a question, man. That's all he wants to do.
Get out, guys. Get out.
You cannot do that.
Get out. No, you cannot. You cannot do that.
Where?
You can actually. I don't know how long these Somalis have been in America, but actually, sir, you can do that. In America, we do have investigative journalism. In America, we do ask questions. In America, if you're getting $2.25 million in taxpayer funds to fund a daycare that is clearly non-existent, we do have the right to ask that question. And if you're part of that fraud, then your ass needs to be in jail or back to Somalia. That's what needs to happen. Can I just say this about Nick Shirley? How does he stay so calm? I kid you not, friends. I have only watched 47 seconds of this video, and my anger is just, it's like off the charts. And my anger is twofold. Maybe threefold, possibly fourfold. Let's go through all my anger points. Number one, I'm angry that these guys are treating Nick Shirley the way that they are, because clearly they've got something to hide. At some point in this video, there is fresh snow that has fallen in Minneapolis. And Nick Shirley asks the question, where are the little kid footprints in the snow? This is fresh snow. Where's the little kid footprints? There's no little kid footprints. That's number one. Number two, I'm angry at the fraud, generally speaking. Number three, I'm angry that I'm grateful that Nick Shirley is doing this. I'm angry that the media refuses to cover this story the way that they should. I'm also angry that President Trump, in responding to the 80% of Somalis who are here under some sort of fraudulent circumstances, had to send in ICE, which led to violence. I'm not angry with Donald Trump. I'm not angry with ICE. I'm angry at the left's response to ICE coming in. Because clearly they could give two craps, the Democrats, they could give two craps about all of the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been fraudulently stolen from us. They don't care about that. All they care about is Donald Trump, Orange Man Bad, sending in ICE to try to track down the child rapists, the murderers, armed robbery, assault, and all of those other people that they arrested in Minneapolis, in Minnesota. That's all that Donald Trump has been trying to do. And find the people that are here fraudulently. And it is clear that this fraud, the Democrats will say, oh, well, they're targeting the community. You know what I say to that? You fish where the fish are. And if it is clear that these are all Somali-run businesses that are non-existent but getting millions of dollars, billions of dollars in taxpayer funds, which is a whole different conversation, but a legit one to have, then it makes you angry. And so one of the things that Nick Shirley, just real quick, one of the things that Nick Shirley dropped in his video is that, and I talked about this before last time I filled in for the guys, but they have these non-emergency medical transport vans. And so what's happening is you have all of these Somali-run businesses that are supposedly transporting people from home to the doctor's office and so forth. Well, guess what? These businesses have no patients, have no vans. They don't even have an office. Or they have vans, but guess what? These vans haven't moved in like 8 months, and they're covered in snow. Yet they're getting the hundreds of millions of dollars of government funding. Again, it's fraudulent. And it goes on and on and on. So if all the other side, if the only thing the left has is, oh, they're going after brown people. Oh, you don't like them because they're Muslim. Oh, you don't like them because, they're from Africa or whatever. No. You know why I don't like them? I don't like them because many of them are here fraudulently, and some of them have been ripping off the American taxpayer, including me. And I'm not seeing a great outcry from the Somali community, generally speaking. That's why I'm frustrated. 866-90-RED-I.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes. Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Smart owner-operators make every single week as profitable as possible. One trip is not enough time to be considered profitable or unprofitable, and an entire month may be too much time to manage. 1 week is the right amount of time to deal with efficiently. To do so, look at the advantages and disadvantages of every day of the week. Match trip length to the optimum day of the week. Plan to deliver on the day you have the best opportunity of getting a load. Your personal weekly plan will vary depending on the weekly delivery flow cycle of your region, typical length of haul, personal requirements, and other factors. What's important is to have a specific weekly plan that helps you be successful. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio, 866-90-RED-I. One of the reasons why I love talk radio and I love doing Red Eye is because, people call up, they ask great questions, and we have terrific conversations. So the guys tell me back at the studio, people wanted to know, has ICE actually arrested some of these Somali fraudsters? Which is a great question. So as far as I can tell right now, the folks at ICE, they have actually arrested, criminals of violent crime. They came out with that list of people that they have arrested, and they were, child rapists and people that have been, convicted of various violent crimes and so forth. There have been the Somali fraudsters. There have been, I think, 61 or so that have already been convicted. This has been going on a while. I'll continue this conversation coming up next on Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios. Now, for Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, here is Dan Mandis.
866-90 Red Eye is the phone number. I host a morning show in Nashville, Tennessee, Super Talk 99.7. WTN, you can always find my podcasts on Spotify and Apple and at the website 997WTN.com. You can listen to my morning show 6 to 10 Eastern Time, 5 to 9 Central. We are on YouTube if you like to watch radio shows, and some people do. I've never understood it, but you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, X as well. Just go into the search bar, 99.7 WTN or Super Talk. Got a note from a guy who has just moved, actually, to Knoxville, Tennessee from Chicago. Now, one of the interesting things that he said is that Nashville is going to become the next Chicago. And while I understand what he's saying, the big difference between Nashville and Chicago is that Nashville is surrounded by a sea of red. You've got in Tennessee, you've got Nashville, and also you have Memphis, and you have places like Knoxville and so forth. But in Tennessee, we have, unlike in Illinois, in Tennessee, we have a Republican governor, and we have a rockin' state legislature, one of the most conservative state legislatures in the country. Chicago and Illinois is a train wreck from the bottom to the top. So while I do understand, and trust me when I say I live in the suburbs of Nashville, I do have my concerns for, the city of Nashville because it is really a great city. But by and large, luckily, we have a Republican governor and a really conservative state legislature to ensure that Tennessee does not become Illinois. But really appreciate the communication. By the way, if you want to send me a text, if you can't call in, 615-737-9986. That is the text line for my local show here in Middle Tennessee and Nashville. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the economy. And no, I'm here to tell you that not all is going wrong with the economy. This is from CNN.
Mortgage rates have now fallen to their lowest level in more than 3 years, and industry experts hope that it will help break the stalemate that has kept reluctant sellers from selling and would-be buyers from buying.
Remind me again, who is it that just in the last week or so really decided to focus on the issue of rising mortgage rates? Oh, yeah, that was Donald Trump.
CNN's Vanessa Yurkevich is with us now on this. All right, Vanessa, how low are we talking?
Yeah, we're talking about the lowest level in more than 3 years. So the average rate for a mortgage, according to Freddie Mac this week, 6.06%. That is down significantly from a year ago when mortgage rates were above 7%. We're exactly where we were 3 years ago. The left-hand side.
All right, so that's good. So if you pay attention to such things, you do know that the real estate market, it has softened big time. Homes have been staying on the market longer, a lot longer in some places. Where I live in Mount Juliet, Tennessee, homes, it used to be, if a home went on the market, Thursday at noon, it was gone by Thursday at 1. I mean, I kid you not. A lot of the homes were actually sold before they even went on the market. So now I've got, I think, 2 or 3 homes that are for sale in my subdivision, and they've all been on the market for, weeks, if not months. But why are these coming down? Why are the mortgage rates coming down? Well, there's a number of things going on, of course. First of all, I'd like to say that every little bit helps. When we talk about affordability, and we talk about the Democrats running on affordability, every little bit helps. And Donald Trump is doing a lot of little bits, if you will, to try to help your economy. So there's a lot of things that are going on. One of the things they're going to mention in this piece on CNN is that Donald Trump ordering the Fed to buy up some $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities. Donald Trump knows that there is a problem in this country related to home affordability. Remember that 50-year mortgage option, which was floated? That idea has kind of been shelved because I thought that was a terrible idea, but whatever. I think that most folks do understand that the banks, when it came to the 50-year mortgages, the banks would really see a lot of that profit. And so I think that pretty quickly we realized that that was not a good idea. But you know what? Donald Trump comes from the world of business, and there's such a thing as brainstorming. And so, bottom line is, yeah, a 50-year mortgage would help people get into a home. And then if you wanted to sell it in a few years, you could. But by and large, I thought that was a terrible idea. But here's the thing. At least Donald Trump is doing something. At least he's doing things to try to help the economy, which is a lot more than I can say about Joe Biden and the Democrats. Just saying. The other thing that Trump has talked about, banning the large institutional investors from buying up all the single-family homes. I believe that that is something that makes a lot of sense. As a guy who knows a lot of, real estate agents, and here in Middle Tennessee, we have a lot of homes for sale. But a lot of, these younger buyers, my daughter is one of them, as a matter of fact. She can't find a starter home to save her life. And the real estate agents will tell you that a lot of that is because you have these big investment companies buying up all of these properties. So there's a lot at play here. But again, every little bit helps.
Exactly where we were 3 years ago. The left-hand side of your screen in January of 2023 and the right-hand side of your screen in January of 2026.
All right. So just so you know, this is radio, but on the left-hand side of the screen and the right-hand side of the screen, left-hand side of the screen, mortgage rates really low. And then you have the Biden years, and it shows that mortgage rates were really high. And now it shows on the right-hand side of the screen, more recently, those rates going down. So, I think that that is really good if you're talking about every little bit helps.
Why this is happening? Well, it could be pointing to the fact that President Trump did direct the purchase of $200 billion of mortgage bonds, and that was designed to lower rates. So some experts saying that is why we're seeing these lower rates today. Real estate agents and experts, as you say, are hoping that this starts to actually move the market. Sellers willing to sell and buyers willing to get into the market.
All right, so the big question is, will these lower rates actually help people save money? And they will. They will. You can save an extra couple hundreds of dollars every single month if these rates are lower. So that's huge. Now, the debate is really how long the purchase of these bonds will keep the rates lower. Everybody obviously is waiting for the Fed for more interest rate cuts. But, the Trump administration has also talked about building more homes because if you, do even a modicum of research, they will tell you that, and obviously a lot of this is regional, but it's a matter of supply and demand. And we are short of starter homes. And that's the problem that we have. But homes are still too expensive. That is true. Do you know the average home price in December was $405,000. That's right. $405,400 to be precise. They're saying that we have gone up 30 months in a row. So, we're not even close to being out of the woods. But again, as I said, every little bit helps. Now, part of the conversation with all of this is that even though you can lower the mortgage rates, you can't necessarily lower the actual cost of the home. And homes are, as I just said, homes are very expensive, and I don't see them going down anytime soon. There are several issues that Donald Trump can't really fix, right? People are locked in with lower rates. Nobody wants to move. I'm going to tell you, I bought this house, 8-9 years ago now? And I've got a really low interest rate. And I told my wife, who started talking about how she wanted a bigger, better. And I said, no way. Because you want a bigger, better, that means that we're going to have a bigger, worser mortgage. Because the interest rates are higher. I think our interest rate is like 3%. It's crazy. So I'm going to die in this house. But there aren't enough starter homes. Tariffs have been making things like steel and aluminum more expensive as well. And I'm just telling you that as a fact. We've got some labor shortages as well. So we do have some things that we need to work out. but Trump is trying. And I think in the long run, I believe the tariffs will be a good thing. But I have seen a lot of positive signs with the economy. The biggest one, of course, you've got the stock market. 60% of working Americans have 401ks. That means that if you're in the 401k, if you're in the stock markets and all that, then your 401k is doing well. You're making money. The core CPI for December that excludes food and energy, that's been easing, slowing down. And it's been better than forecasters have expected. And that's the core CPI. In December, it rose 0.2%, beating expectations. Overall inflation, that is also cooled 2.7%. Still some work to be done. Remember that there is a difference between inflation, though, and the cost of groceries. Inflation is prices across the entire economy. Groceries are what you put in your basket. And this is where Gary and Eric, they talk about this all the time, and it's true. That right now, groceries are still too expensive. But when you look at all of the other points, all of the other economic points that I'm talking about, yeah, groceries are too high, but you know what? 401ks looking good. Inflation overall is looking good as well. Mortgage rates are going down. When you talk about real wages and you talk about how are wages outpacing inflation, yes, wages are outpacing inflation. So it's not just about the groceries. It's about a lot of these other economic points as well. We do have to work on the cost of groceries going up because that is the one thing that is, and I would call this the most relatable to people. Everybody goes to the grocery store. I go to the store every single weekend, and the groceries are still too high. But we've seen a lot of these bright spots. You've got meat and eggs and fish. They have all gone down. Other things, though, have gone up. So we do still have some work to do. But listen, the GDP has been up, beating expectations. The trade deficit, that has declined big time. We are exporting a lot more than we are importing, the lowest since 2009. Again, beating expectations. Gas prices are down. So, yeah, we can all talk about, groceries are so expensive. But you know what? We're making up for it in other ways. It's not always bad news. And one more thing. The president wants to have a temporary cap on credit card interest rates at 10% for a year. That means that people can maybe try and pay off those credit cards. Again, wage growth is beating inflation. And remember what we all dealt with under Joe Biden. Biden and the Democrats told us that 9% plus inflation, it was okay, and to deal with it. Gas prices above $5 a gallon, and grocery prices skyrocketed. So, yeah, we still have some work to be done. There's still some work to be done, but there's a lot of positive things going on with the economy. That, my friends, clearly is good news. 866-90-RED-EYE is the phone number. 866-90-RED-EYE. We'll return next.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
Red Eye Radio, 866-90-RED-EYE is the phone number. You know, one of the things, I didn't even talk about this, but it's kind of news from earlier in the week. Did you get as much satisfaction as I did when Donald Trump gave that heckler the finger? I mean, it was, because I think that for a lot of conservatives, we've been watching all of this insanity that's been going on in, Minneapolis and Los Angeles, just all these places. Whether it's the fraud, whether it's the violence, whether it's the attacks on law enforcement, whether it's the, sucking up to the criminal illegal aliens, all of it. And I think that we are just, if you're conservative, you've had it up to, up to here. And so when Trump gave that heckler the finger, it was like, yeah. And also the mouthing of the FU. So there is a video, and I just posted it to my socials. Follow me at Dan Mandis Show. I posted it to my X feed. And it's Tim Walz. And he is, of course, doing what he does, talking about, Donald Trump and, just all that stupidity. And they have AI'd in, artificial intelligence in, behind Tim Walz, Donald Trump walking ever so slowly behind the Minnesota governor, flipping him the bird. I think that that's really funny. So if you want to check that out, you can. Again, follow me on X at Dan Mandis Show. By the way, have you heard how much that heckler is getting? The heckler who yelled at Donald Trump and called him, a pedophile protector? The Democrats have now donated a GoFundMe to him for like $800,000 at least. Unflippin' believable.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.